Please be seated. On the court is now back in session, and the chamber would like to hand the floor to the defense teams. And first, we would like to give the floor to Nuon Chi's defense to put questions to the civil party. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. I have a few questions for you. Mr. Witness, my first question is, while you were at Krang Tachan, do you remember a woman, possibly a female prisoner, called Grandmother Noor?
Yes, I knew Ye Nyo.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Ye Noor? What was she doing at Krang Tachan, for instance?
At Krang Tachan, initially Ye Nyo was not a prisoner. Her husband was a prisoner. And when I asked Ye Nyo about her husband, Ye Nyo's husband was accused by the organization that he says there was a thunder. He said there was a thunder without any rain. And just by saying that, he was accused by Onka of being a traitor. And when the husband was brought into Krang Tachan, the wife and the children were later brought along.
Would you be able to remember, Mr. Witness, whether you were already stationed at Krang Tachan when Grandmother Noor was there, or did you come afterwards? In other words, were they already staying there before you came?
Ye Nyo arrived there in the same year that I did.
I understand, but were you there already, or was she there already? So, in other words, who came first?
I had been there before her arrival.
Do you remember seeing anything of her interrogation?
No, I did not see her being interrogated. However, if it happened later on when I was not there, I would not have any idea. But I saw her working in the kitchen hall at the Krang Tachan.
What was that her main activity at Krang Tachan, working at the kitchen and cooking food for the prisoners and the staff?
Ye Nyo cooked rice for the prisoners. However, sometimes the prison staff asked her to wash the dishes.
Do you remember whether Ye Nyo had any children who were also at Krang Tachan?
From my recollection, two children came along. In fact, there were three. One got married, and the other two boys came along with her as well.
What do you remember about the one who you say got married? Was that a daughter?
Yes, it was Rat, that is the daughter of Yenyor, who got married.
Maybe it's a translation thing. Are you saying got married or was married?
I spoke about Ye Rat, the daughter of Ye Nyo, who got married. It means who had a husband and who was there at Krantachan as well.
Right. Do you remember ever speaking to Rat while she was at Krantachan? Were you ever chit-chatting about things?
Yes, I chit-chatted with her, and it happened almost every day because we worked together there. Sometimes we carry the earth mound, or sometimes the earth from the bottom of the pond to fill in the rice field.
When you were chit-chatting with Rod, do you remember things that you spoke about?
Besides a casual chit-chatting, I did not speak on anything or any serious matter or on any policies.
Would it be correct if I said that Rod was at Krantachan maybe for a period of 2 years, 2.5 years?
I cannot recall the year or, in fact, the date of her arrival. I cannot recall that.
What maybe give us your best estimate. Was she there around 2 years in your recollection?
I cannot recall the number of years. She was there probably in 1977, early 1977. That's around the time that I carried the Earth mound, but now the Earth mound was gone, and at that time we also carried the Earth from the bottom of the pond, and we were asked to make a natural fertilizer for the rice fields in the area at the time.
Having chit-chatted with Rod for amount of time, would you consider her as a colleague or as a friend, or somebody, or just as somebody who was also there at Krantachan? Would you be able to give us a characterization of your relation with her?
Our relationship was normal because the way she worked was different from the way I worked, because we did not belong to the same unit. And our friendly chat was limited to just a casual chit-chatting, as we had to focus ourselves on obeying the line of Angka, and we could not have any chit-chats that could be detrimental to the Angka interest. So we just had a casual chit-chat, and by the end of the working hour, she left, or she returned to her work, and I returned to my place. She returned to her place, rather.
Would you be able to recollect how her relationship was with the other guards in your unit? Was that the same friendly relationship as she had with you?
As I have just stated, it was a casual relationship. And we tried to work hard. And we just treated our friendship as normal. We only chit-chatted during the working hours, and by the time they had to be returned, then I would return them back into the compound.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. That answer to me is very clear. However, my question was whether you remember anything about her relationship with your fellow guards, such as Small Duik, your cousin Van Son, or any other of the guards. Do you remember anything about that?
Ye Nyo and Ye Rat were casual with other people. The way they were living was normal. And sometimes when the staff from the center did not come along, then if we had a coconut, for example, to share, then we would share with them. Then she would dare eating the coconut with us. And we never treated them in any different way from the way that I described earlier.
Have you ever seen or spoken with Rod or her mother after 1979?
As I have said, I chit-chatted with her at that time. However, what we chit-chatted was in no way intentional to harm or to affect the organization or the revolution. Not at all.
Thank you, Mr. Civil Party, but maybe my question didn't come across well. My question was whether after 1979 you spoke with grandmother Noor or her daughter. So not during your time at Krang Tachan, but after 1979.
After 1979, I have never met Jinyo or her children again.
Do you know where Yinar and her daughter Rod are now?
I know that they are living in their native village at Sra Kru, though I do not know the exact location in Srai Kru. One day, Sukha, that is one of her children, came to visit my house, and I asked about her family members, and I was told that her mother was fine, but became much older, and that's all I knew about what happens to her and her family.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Mr. President, I would like to revisit this topic maybe 10 minutes before 4, but then asking for a closed session and just move on now to be practical and not to... I presume you know where I'm going with my questions, but or I can continue now, but then I think following your recent decision, the door should be closed.
President, your request is granted. Council.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Civil Party, do you recollect whether you had any similar interactions with two other female prisoners who were mentioned earlier, who were female medics, Han and Vorn?
Answer. Among the prisoners, including Ye Han and another pawn, I don't know this individual. I heard that Ye Han from working as a medic, but I did not inflict any ill treatment against her. She was always working at the work site along with me most of the time.
I wasn't implicating at all, Mr. Civil Party, about you doing any wrongdoing to her. My question was more, did you chit-chat the same way with her as you did with Ra and her mother Noor?
Answer. It was a simple chit-chatting, and they also talked to me as an ordinary person and friend, but I did not take any serious, any personal word from them.
Do you know how the relationship was between your fellow guards and Han? Was it the same as their relationship with Rat and her mother?
Answer. There was no problem with me. I could not say that he or they had a problem. Maybe Anka defined their mistake. So all I talked to them was to try to work so that all of us could survive.
So am I right, Mr. Witness, when I say that between you and the guards on the one hand and Han, there was no problem. There was no difficulty in your relationship. Is that correct?
Answer. Our relationship was not in any difficulty. As I told you earlier, that those prisoners were let out to work, who were let out to work outside. I was in charge of supervising them, and my life will be taken away if any prisoner fled away. And when they complete a daily work, those prisoners were sent back into the detention building, and that's all my daily assignment.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Do you remember another female prisoner called Set Yem?
Civil Party Counsel, could you please repeat your question because I didn't catch it. Her name is Said Yam. Answer. I don't recall this name.
Do you remember prisoners at Krang Tachan who used to be, before 1975, film stars, actors?
Answer. I don't remember any prisoners who were movie star or actress who were there at Krang Tachan. I don't remember anything.
Do the names Kim Nova and Nop Nem mean anything to you?
Answer. When you refer to Kim Nova and Nop Nam, I would see them on the movie because I watched those movies, but I don't know they were sent to Krang Tachan and what happened to them there. I had no idea.
So you never saw them and you never heard about the fact that they were possibly detained at Krang Tachan, correct?
Answer. No, I didn't hear anything like that.
I have one follow-up question in relation to the tape recorder. Would you be able, if necessary, with your hands, and then, Mr. President, I will ask the court record to reflect it, but with your hands, the measurements of the tape recorder, could you indicate how small or how big the tape recorder was that we spoke about earlier?
Answer. That tape recorder, we didn't use battery, but a battery of 6 volt. It was an old model battery. It's like a box, and the tape recorder was operating by a cassette. It was about 50 centimeters long. the recorder was called National Brand. Yeah, there was one tape recorder over there. I recall it. I used to play it, but I play the music or song of the revolution about the patient, but it was just music for fun or for my leisure, not for any special purpose at the time.
Mr. Silverparty, you see in front of you a monitor. It's that black thing right in front of you. Could you make a comparison between the tape recorder that was there at Krang Chan and the monitor that you see in front of you? Was the tape recorder smaller, bigger? Would you be able to give us a comparison?
Answer. That tape recorder, I'm talking about the length is longer, but it is shorter, it's lower. But when talking about the size, it's about the screen, about the same size as the screen.
And is it correct that the sound was only coming from the tape recorder itself and from nowhere else?
Answer. That tape recorder would be played for music. It was not used as a means of to make the voice louder, but it was used for music listening purpose as usual.
I think your answer is very clear. Just to be 100% sure, there were no wires coming out of the tape recorder leading to any amplifying loudspeakers. Is that correct?
Answer. To be honest, for you, there was a wire, there was a cable from the battery to the tape recorder. That's why we could play the tape. There was no cable to any amplifier or to any speaker rather than the speaker of that tape recorder itself.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. It's a little bit before 10 to 4, but actually I'm coming to my subject now, Mr. President, so a request to, in line with your earlier ruling, close the doors.
The President, the trial chamber granted your request, and the hearing will be in closed session for the last part, and court officer and relevant staff should take action following the decision by the chamber. First, AV unit is instructed to cut off the voice to the public gallery, and secondly, the civil party is authorized to participate in the proceeding as a parties, but you should keep your testimony confidential, and you should not share any information you testify here to anyone outside at all. And you may proceed, counsel. Kong Sam On, thank you, Mr. President. in case we will have a closed session for now, may I request that the voice should not be distracted, because Mr. Kilsampon could not hear the voice from the civil party well. President, that is why we advise the AV staff so that we can conduct proceeding in a closed session, and the image and the voice will become normal. So the AV unit staff need some time to do that.